The Dallas Cowboys have one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL. But the Dallas Cowboys are 4-5-1. The conversation this offseason for the Dallas Cowboys will be, should they sign George Pickens or not? Paige Dimakos, I'm going to pass it to you. Should the Dallas Cowboys sign George Pickens to extension?
No, they shouldn't. And I'll tell you why. They are not a Super Bowl caliber team. And at some point, they need to start making decisions that put them closer to where they want to be versus just signing every guy as they come up for a contract. And this is the same problem they got into earlier on in Dak's career, where they signed Amari Cooper and Ezekiel Elliott, both to $100 million+ contracts, and then traded them away within the first 2-3 years. So as much as I like George Pickens, and maybe that comes with keeping George and moving on from CD or something structurally, this currently constructed team, if you have CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott and George Pickens all making the amount of money that they're going to make, you're not going to afford to go get the guys you need. And that's the problem for them, is they have a lot of holes, as we've discussed. As much as this was a good win for them on Monday Night Football, it's against a bad football team, and they're not a playoff team. This isn't a team that's good enough to, and at some point they need to decide, who are we, and are we going to be a Super Bowl caliber team? Now, will Jerry do that? Probably not. Jerry will probably pay George Pickens, and they'll probably be in the back in the same scenario where they're an explosive offense and not very good on defense, and they can't protect Dak, and here we are again. So I'd love to hear what you have to say, though.
Yeah, I think the Dallas Cowboys shouldn't sign George Pickens. And for all the reasons you just highlighted, right, is that you're 4-5-1. In those 4 games that they've won, they've beaten the Jets, the Giants, the Commanders, and the Raiders. And any team that was average to above average, they've lost to. So you have a below average roster as currently constructed. Now, is it fun? Is it exciting? Is it sexy football? Yes, but it's getting you nowhere, right? You're just going nowhere fast and you're scoring a lot of points, but you can't stop anybody. This team has flaws throughout the entire roster that I think this year has finally been highlighted, right? We've gotten over the conversation of Dak is a choke artist, Dak isn't a good quarterback, it's all Dak's fault, to really looking at this entire team and saying, wait, this team is not good at all. And when you're 4-5-1, you're sitting at 500 through 10, 11 weeks of NFL football, then you see that you have an issue throughout this entire roster. And I think I always say this. I started the season off comparing them to the Cincinnati Bengals. You have 2 high-profile wide receivers, a good quarterback. You can't stop anybody on defense. The offensive line needs improvement. You need a run game. There's so many ways that this team is flawed that I think signing George Pickens it's the flashy thing. It's the Hollywood thing. It's the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones thing to do, right? But it doesn't equate to winning, and I don't think they'll win a Super Bowl. I think this will actually be a step in the opposite direction if they sign George Pickens.
And I'm glad you went in the direction you did, because the Cincinnati Bengals was going to be the reference I was going to use. At a certain point, you need to use Joe Burrow. We would consider a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. We'd consider Jamar Chase a better wide receiver than CeeDee Lamb. We'd consider T. Higgins a better wide receiver than George Pickens. So when you look at those 3 currently constructed, you talk about 2 quarterbacks who've both had injury issues, both haven't been protected and taken care of. If the better version of it is not working, why do you feel like Dallas can do it?
Right.
Man, that makes no sense. That is the better, younger, more like, you got younger quarterback, better. They're more proven. They've won playoff games. They went to a Super Bowl and lost. Like, that's a more proven commodity than the Dallas Cowboys. And if that version doesn't work, then why the hell do you feel like the Dallas Cowboys trio is going to work? Because it won't. Like, at a certain point, we need to stop. What is winning in the NFL right now? Defense, right. Special teams, running the football. These are things that consistently, when you look at, and we'll get to this, but like, when you talk about winning a Super Bowl, never, ever has there been a team that won without good defense. It doesn't exist. And at a certain point, we need to start saying, we're not playing Madden, Dallas and Cincinnati. We're playing real football. And real football involves physicality, protecting your quarterback, and playing defense. And the sooner they figure that out, the better off they're going to be.
Yeah, and I'll go as far as to say this, that we're not against having 2 really good wide receivers on the team, right? Because one franchise that has proven to be able to get it done is the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Having A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and it's part of what makes them dynamic and almost unstoppable, because they're a well-rounded team. But the other part is this: they have a good offensive line, they have a good defense, They have run game. They have a quarterback. It is a well-rounded football team. We're talking about the teams that lean so heavy one way, right? And you can even go to, even for instance, the Chargers, right? For a long time, the Chargers had explosive offenses, and then on the other side of the football, they couldn't run the football and they had defensive issues, and it landed Phillip Rivers in having a whole lot of statistics, right? And a whole lot of fun games, and fantasy football was really good for the Chargers, but it didn't equate in playoff wins and Super Bowl appearances. So it's just they have to become more balanced in their approach.
And the one other thing I'll mention about that is the key with the Eagles is Devonta Smith is still on a rookie deal. You're talking about two financial implications of paying two wide receivers $30+ million a year. You have a window of time where you need to manipulate the cap to make sure that you have an opportunity to do that. You paid A.J. Brown, now you're going to have to pay Devonta Smith, and then A.J. Brown's ass is probably going to be out of there when that time comes. So you got to think about those things as you go through this also, because using that as an example, paying T. Higgins and paying Jamar Chase top of the market wide receivers has put the Cincinnati Bengals in a very tough spot. Yes, it's nice to have two number ones, but when you pay two number ones, you're using up a lot of your salary cap. And as we've discussed, you can have all the wide receivers in the world, but if you don't protect your quarterback, nobody's throwing the football to them. And Cincinnati would really be in a much better spot if they could protect their quarterback and run the football. And they're not. So we'll see. Nope. We'll see how this goes. But I'm sure that Jerry will not listen to the show, and he will do what he wants to do, and he will sign George Pickens.
Oh, he's going to do whatever gets the headlines, right? That's what he said. He's a showman at the end of the day.
That's for sure.
You can count on Jerry Jones.
Greatest showman. The greatest showman.